Good morning, Year 8. I hope you had a lovely week and you're excited for the weekend. This is your 20 question solutions video for week 10. Your sheet should say 8 4.5 in the right hand corner. Okay, so let's get going. So the first one says find 5% of £440. So the easiest way to do this is we're going to find 10% and then we're going to divide it by 2. Okay, so to find 10%, we're going to do 440 divided by 10. So that equals £44. And then because 5% is half of 10%, we can just half this, can't we? So 44 divided by 2 equals £22, okay? So that's our answer there, £22. Up next, it says find 25% of £600. So 25% is actually just half of 50%. So all we have to do is half it to get 50% and then half it again to get 25%. So we would do 600 divided by 2 equals 300. And then we'd half it again. So we do 300 divided by 2 equals £150, okay? So that's our final answer there, £150. Okay, so the next one is asking us to factorise. So we've got to ask ourselves, what is the highest number that goes into both of these parts? So the highest number that goes into 12 and 28. Okay, so we'd get 4, okay, so we can put 4 on the outside of the brackets. So once we know we've got 4 on the outside of the brackets, we're just going to make sure the rest of it works. So how do we get from 4 to 12x? Well, we're going to have to times 4 by 3 to get to 12. So we have 3 here, and then we've also got an x, so we'll have 3x. And then how do we get from 4 to 28? What do we have to times it by? Well, we have to times 4 by 7. So we would have 4, and then in brackets 3x plus 7. And remember, we can always test to see if we're correct by doing the multiplication. So 4 times 3x is indeed 12x, and 4 times 7 is indeed positive 28. So we know that we're correct there, okay? So up next, it says 14x plus 6, okay? So once again, we're going to have to find the highest number that goes into 14 and 6. And we get a pretty low number this time, so we'd get the number 2. So we'd have 2 on the outside of our brackets. And then, as I said before, we've just got to make it work through multiplication. So we'd have 2 times something equals 14x. Well, 2 times 7 is 14. And then we can add the x. And then 2 times something must equal 6. So there's our 3. Okay, so we should have 2 and then 7x plus 3. And again, we can test it. 2 times 7x, well, yep, that is 14x. And 2 times 3 is 6. So we know that we're correct. Okay, so up next, it says 6x plus 4 equals 16. So as always, we want to get all the x's on one side and all the numbers on the other side, okay? So this is my side where I've got the extra number, so I want to get rid of my plus 4 and pop it onto the other side. So to get rid of plus 4, I'm going to do the opposite, so I'm going to take away 4. But remember, you've got to do it on both sides. So if I take away 4 from this side, I'm left with 6x, and if I take away 4 from this side, I'm left with 12. So now I know that 6x equals 12, well, I only want 1x, so I'm going to have to do 6x, and I'm going to have to divide that by 6, to get my 1x, and I'm going to have to do the same to the other side. So 12 divided by 6 equals 2. Okay, so that means I know that x equals 2. Now the next one's a little bit more difficult because it's got some brackets in there, okay? So let's get rid of those brackets first. So we're going to expand them. So we're going to do 5 times 11x equals 55x, and then 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. And that still equals 425 because all we've done is expand our brackets on the left-hand side. Okay, so up next we're going to get rid of the minus 15, okay? So to get rid of the minus 15, we're going to add the 15 to this side and this side, okay? So that means I'm left with 55x, and that equals 440, okay? But I don't want 55x, so I'm going to have to divide by 55 on both sides. And 440 divided by 55 equals 8, okay? So I know that x equals 8 in that case. Perfect. So next up, it says express 42 as a product of its prime factors, okay? So we've done this lots of times now. So we start with 42 up here, and we've got to split it into pairs of multiplication, and one of them has to be a prime number, okay? So this is an even number, so we'll start with the number 2. So 2 times something equals 42. Well, that's 21, okay? Up next, we could do, it's not an even number this time, so we have to do a different number. So we could have 3, because 3 is a prime number, and 3 times 7 is 21. And 7 is a prime number as well, okay? So that's all our prime numbers there. And then remember to write it, we just go in order, so we do 2 times 3 times 7, okay? So we don't have any indices this time, so that's just the answer there. Okay, so up next we've got 720 as a product of its prime factors, which might take a little bit more drawing of our diagram, okay? So we need a pen to start with, that'd be helpful. Okay, so we've got 720, so that's an even number, so let's go for 2 times 360. That's still an even number, so let's go again. So 2 times 180. Still an even number, so let's go 2 and 90. We can go 2 again, so 2 and 45. Now 45, well obviously 5 goes into it, so 5 times 9 is 45. And then 9, we can have 3 times 3, okay? So I'm going to have to rub that out and write it for you. But remember, we would have 2, and we've got 4 2s, so we're going to have 2 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 2 times 5, okay? So I'll just write that out now. Okay, so up next, we are finding the median, okay? So remember, that is the middle number. So we have got 6 numbers here, okay? So we're going to write them in order, in ascending order, so from smallest to largest. So we'll start with 1.4. Then we're on to 1.7, aren't we? That's the next one. Then we'll be up to 2.1. Then there's 2.2s, so we can write 2.2 and 2.2. And then we've got 2.5, okay? So we'll have to delete this in a second, because obviously we've gone over. So because there are 6 numbers, obviously we'd count in 3 from each side, but the middle is going to be between these 2 numbers, and they're not the same, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So it is the middle point between 2.1 and 2.2. So the middle point between those 2 numbers is obviously 2.15, okay, because that's 0.05 above and below each of them, okay? So that would be our answer, 2.15, which I will write up for you now. Okay, so up next we've got calculating the mean. So if you remember, the mean is when you add all the numbers together and divide by how many you've got. So in this case, we've got 5 numbers, so we're going to add them together. So we can do 37 plus the 3 is 40, then plus the 4 and the 2 equals 50. So we'll have 50 divided by how many we have? Well, we've got 5, so we can do 50 divided by 5 equals 10. So 10 is the mean average for those numbers. Okay, so up next we've got a little bit of a BIDMAS to do, so that's exciting. So we'll write that out here. So B for bracket. Well, good news, we've got some brackets, so we're going to do those first. So 2 plus 2 inside the brackets, well that makes 4. And then we've only got one other operation left, which is to multiply by 5. So that's what we're going to do. So we've done the brackets first, then we'll do the multiplication. So 5 times 4 equals 20. Okay, so that's our answer for the first one. So we'll follow BIDMAS again. So B, well we don't have any brackets this time, but we do have some indices, okay? So we're going to do that one first. So 3 squared is 9, so let's write that in and make a new sum. So now we've got 12 plus 5 times 9. So do we have any division? No. Do we have any multiplication? Yes, so we'll do that one first. Okay, so 5 times 9 is 45. And then all we've got left is our add 12. So now we can do 12 plus 45, which equals 57. Okay, so 57 is our final answer for that question. Okay, so we've run out of time on video number 1, so please tune in to video number 2 to find out the answers to the final 8 questions.